Welcome back, everybody. Yards After the Catch podcast. It's been a while since we've seen y'all. We missed you. We're back for some fun, just a little shit talking tonight, talking some NFL draft, round one for the boys in the books coming up soon on Thursday night. It's me and Brian. How we doing, my friend?
What's going on, man? Welcome to be happy to be back, enjoying life. The
Yeah,
best time of year now, draft season, where we get our hopes up, and now the next 4 years, we'll see what happens if we were right or wrong.
yeah. This is where GMs and executives get hired and fired. I'll tell you that.
Yep.
And this is do or die time for some of the bottom feeders. It's easy. We know the league is set up to go from worst to first and first to worst very quick. So this is kind of where it happens. But yeah, we'll keep it real easy tonight. I know all listeners at home, you got plenty of options, so we thank you guys for tuning in where and when you can. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Instagram. We always save the plugs for the end, but we're going to do it in the front now this time. But yeah, so again, thank you guys for choosing us just to shit talk and hang around. We appreciate it dearly. We're trying to make the glow up in 2026,
Mhm.
We're going to make it happen. So kicking off, I thought it was apropos to rock my beautiful 3-time Super Bowl champ hat because we know what time it is right around the corner. It's Mendoza Mania. Come on now. Number one pick in the draft. The Las Vegas Raiders must be selecting Fernando Mendoza. Am I wrong, my friend Brian?
You have no choice at all. They love him. I do think he's not going to start his first year because of Kirk, but I think it's the right, which I want them to do because let's get all the kinks out and let's not put any tread on the tire until we have a well-oiled machine with a veteran in place who could teach him and also show some success. I think what they did in the offseason is setting up for that with their acquisitions and everything about that. But my one question is this. If they were to trade the first pick, what would you want for it?
Did I want a haul? I
What's the
want
haul? What do you think is the haul for this for him? Because it's going to
well,
be him. If you're trading up, you're getting him. So what's the draft capital that you want?
it's tricky because I would want quality over quantity. I wouldn't want a haul in the sense that I want multiple picks because we know this organization notoriously riffs on them, but it is a new day with Kubiak in the building. And I think having Brady kind of pulling puppet strings in the shadows is kind of nice. So with that being said, I would want quality on the defensive end. I want somebody
Okay.
to be nurtured by Crosby on the line him up on the opposite side. And I definitely want an offensive line piece. And I think the only way to get that is somewhere in the low twos, high third round. So I would really want like a couple seconds for that pick. And I think that's more than fair, particularly depending on what the team is. And, if they could
Mm,
throw in, if they could throw in some money into it, they can make maybe a package deal. It's one of those things where the dust has settled on free agency. So we have the pieces, we have the 3-year terms that we want with the players we acquired. But I think ultimately having quality in those picks over quantity is way more important at this point.
got it. So you're looking on all three fronts then.
Yeah, yeah. Especially we're getting close to the 53-man roster time too, and guys are going to be, we don't have a lot of spots to be competing for
No,
jobs.
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So I'm curious. I keep on thinking. No one's talked about it yet. I'm curious if anyone's going to try to give a call.
we'll see in
Yeah.
due time. But I'm totally with you. I think that he's going to sit at least the first 6 weeks of the regular season. Whether Kirk goes 4-2 or he goes 2-4. I think it's important for him to sit. I think that their offense that Cignetti ran was very unique and very like it was very special for the time capsule that it was set in. I think in
Yes.
the league now
Yes.
everything gets faster. The
Hmm.
reads, the options, everything comes to you faster. Everything comes to you quicker. So I think he needs time to react and respond, and he needs to
Yeah.
see the reps in person. With these guys that are not college anymore, they're pros. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, no matter how long he's sitting for, he's definitely gonna be sitting for at least like I would say 6 weeks.
Yeah, I agree with you because I think of the bowl game, right, for the championship, and I just
Yeah.
think of like that run for the touchdown.
Oh,
Like, imagine him getting hit by Roquan Smith, right? So, like,
look.
there's that kind of like, aspect now of, hey, we don't have this ability anymore. Like, we're not that fast to be able to just be doing that. And if we are going to do that, you got to save it for a playoff game. So, you're limited in that, but like, he seems like he's been doing really well in not training camps, but like pro day events and everything like that. I think he had a little bit of a weak one at his actual pro day for passing accuracy, but at the same time though, like it's not real game motion and everything like that. But I still have a lot of faith in him. So I think he's going to good hands in this, and I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah, me too. I'm really blessed. I know Kubiak is the right recipe. Kirk Cousins having a vet like that, especially coming from the Washington system, where if you really
Yeah,
think back, like he had a little bit of McVay in him, he had a little bit of Shanahan in him, he had a little bit of
yeah,
Mike Daniel in him. The list
yeah.
goes on
Old
and on.
and old Shanahan too. It's not even like new Shanahan.
And
It's like
yeah, yeah, young and old for sure.
yeah.
And now
So
you have Brady in the building. I mean, that's so crazy.
no, I know it
So,
really is. It's like a master class of offense there, and I think I really like and just we were talking about the pick, but I really think Kirk is set up well to honestly take this team to a possible like worst to wild card contender just
yeah,
because of the strength of schedule and the acquisition you guys done. Like you saw what he did with an okay Falcon team. If you think about it, it's a very similar offensive weapons that they have now on the Raiders. Maybe call them a Falcons light, but you could still have some damage with it. Like you got Bowers, that's Pitts, and you
yeah.
hope Genty becomes
Bijan.
Bijan. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Yeah,
it is a good fit for him at least based on what those last 8 weeks of the season were.
yeah, I just think it's going to boil down to meat and potatoes, the academics, the offensive line, making sure
Yeah,
that guys are not blasting through that front for Mendoza. He actually has time to react and respond. He can get, serviceable snaps from Lindbaum because like he's, arguably the best center in the league. So it
no,
should
for
be
sure.
really it should be really exciting. I think
Yeah,
that
no, it's gonna be good.
like I would say that is the ceiling, like the last wild card in the
Yeah,
AFC picture would be
you're looking between 7 and 9 if you
yeah.
go on seeding.
Realistically,
I think that's a good win.
oh, that's a huge win. Yeah. Anything besides worse is a win.
That's it. And you go 1-1 with the Chiefs. That's it. That's a good year.
Yeah. I actually own up to being a laughing stock, not like other teams like A Young and some of the other crew.
But you have to listen. If it's either you laugh or you cry, right?
It would be a lot of crying, let me tell you.
Yeah, I know.
Let's hop into where the actual draft begins at the number 2 pick. As it currently stands, the New York Jets are scheduled to select David Bailey, offensive linebacker out of Texas Tech. Now, there have been some arguments at the top of the food chain that Arvell Reese is in the mix. Again, they need to
Hmm.
go defensive heavy no matter what. So whether you're going inside or outside linebacker, I think it's a perfect fit regardless. This is a team that really struggled on both sides of the ball, but it was far more abysmal when it came to the defense post Quinnen Williams deal. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of these guys want to play for Aaron Glenn, but I think the passion only takes you so far when you're bereft of talent. So what are your thoughts
Yeah.
about the prospects of either one of those guys, the defensive struggles that the Jets have had last year?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I personally would take Reese here just because of right now you're in this weird transition phase where you need so many pieces on the defense now because you lost Sauce, right? So now your coverage is gone. You lost
Mm-hmm.
Quincy Williams in free agency, who is your outside linebacker who can rush and cover and run defend, and your interior guy in his brother, Will Quinnen, right? So you could
Yep.
go with adding another. You already got Will McDonald on the outside, who's a very solid player, and you do have some good rotational pieces at end where maybe we don't have to force the Bailey pick, even though it is, it could be like a Will Anderson level of guarantee of quality, 10 sack guy that season.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is when your team is this bad, you need a Swiss watch, and Reese is a Swiss watch where you could say he's this year's Micah Parsons, where he can be, he can rush the passer, he can play coverage, he could do every position in the front seven basically. Where he has that flexibility that gives your team at least scheming options, which a guy like Aaron Glenn can succeed with.
Yeah, all great points, and just to kind of hammer home like the necessity that they have, especially to kind of change things up and throw different looks at teams. When you're trying to compete not just in the AFC but the AFC East, particular, you got New England loading back up. Buffalo made some serious moves in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
With DJ Moore and with Chubb. I think you really have to keep pace and keep competitive to keep these teams, these offenses on their toes. Last year, they were bottom 5 in all the most key statistics: total yards,
Hmm.
points allowed, and touchdowns and interceptions and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
if you're going to start somewhere, the best available, best athlete available, I think it's Arvell Reese, in particular when you look at the defensive
Yeah.
studs that have come out of Ohio State. I don't
Yeah.
like to carry a program's legacy as kind of a definitive difference maker
Hmm.
or like
Well,
a
it's
signing
it's at
package.
least it's at least a floor, right? You're getting at
Sure,
least some
sure.
type of guaranteed floor in a player.
The way I would describe when we look at some of these second tier programs versus the Ohio States and
Hmm.
the LSUs and stuff like that, it's kind of like when you go into a dealership and you're like, well, I could have any Toyota, or I could have a Volkswagen, the new brand, like the new
Yeah.
model. And it's whatever the Volkswagen is, yeah, well, it's going to have engine issues down the line. Guaranteed the floor of a Toyota will last you 320,000 miles.
Exactly. It just might not be pretty. That's it. This might not
Yeah,
be pretty.
yeah. So for gearheads and fucking football fans, you can toy with that one. But I think Arvell Reese is the best fit here. They could do whatever they want with him. They can move him a lot of places. He's just a freak athlete. He had the best,
Hmm.
most impressive combine of anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, Moving on. Right now, the Arizona Cardinals hold the number 3 overall pick. I know we mentioned that Arvell Reese was projected for number 2, so let's change it up. Let's go David Bailey, outside linebacker, Texas Tech. Now, again, I was a little disappointed. I saw the Texas Tech game against Miami in the football playoff last year. I thought they had multiple attempts,
Hmm.
multiple opportunities to put that team away. I thought Carson Beck had a subpar year, even though they made the title game. It was because of their defense. It wasn't because of Carson
Yeah.
Beck. And I thought that
Hmm.
the defense was good enough to win that game. And David Bailey was certainly a big part of that. He's a really, he's another freak athlete, very quick off his feet. You pair him with Arizona. Arizona's kind of an open floor plan. Like we talked about them last year, they could have snuck as one of those sneaky dark horse teams in the NFC. They already have a lot of young talent. We talk about Marvin Harrison Jr.
Hmm.
We don't really know what to make of them, but I think a great start would be with David Bailey
Yeah.
out of Texas Tech.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I like this pick here. It fills the need. I also think that they can get a little, they have a lot of needs this team, so they could go offensive tackle. They at this pick over here, they could get what's his name on my list. I forget his name again. Apologies. What is it? I
With a
forget his
player
name.
going to on
Yeah,
the
for the Cardinals.
Cardinals.
I'm trying to think what his name is. He's the offensive tackle, the top guy. I can't forget where it is. Let me see. Oh,
No,
where is it?
we'll
I just
find
had
it.
it. Oh yeah, Francis Moyagoa from Miami.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh, I'm
Yes,
sorry. Yeah, I
yeah,
know exactly. Yeah,
phenomenal.
he's a beast. 100%.
Yeah, right. So like, you go there because like, next year's your quarterback draft, right? If that's how you want to go, or James Conner's been hurt a lot. You go Jeremiah Love. I don't agree with the pick, but it's like, you have Marvin Harrison, you have, McBride, like you have Wilson. All right, you have the tools. Your O line's not atrocious, it's
Mhm.
bad. Throw the running back and set the stack of all the skills players, and O line will come in next year's draft with your quarterback, and then maybe that's your free agent goal next year. So there's a lot of it really depends on how they see the next, I would say, 3 drafts, including this one's processes for them. But they have a lot of wiggle room. But yeah, I think this is honestly it's a perfect spot for them.
Yeah, they have a little bit of wiggle room, like you said, to move back for Jeremiah Love. I think that's a safe pick, even with James Conner in the building, because he does have an injury history. We do know that he's sat for some time, and when you're playing in absence of your starting quarterback, we know they dealt Kyler Murray to Minnesota. They're now starting.
Yeah,
What's his name? Oh shoot,
Jacoby
Jacoby
Brissett.
Brissett. Brissett. Yeah, Brissett plays
He played
hard.
well. He played well
He
last year.
played well.
Yeah.
He doesn't make mistakes very often. He was impressive in Indy. He was impressive in New England. I really like him in the absence of as a bridge quarterback. But in order to have a successful bridge quarterback, you have to have like a guy like a Jeremiah Love to hand the rock to give yourself
Exactly.
some breathing room and some time. So you can make a case for either guy. I really like both picks. With David Bailey, I think he's the best available, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and it's a good
Agree.
place to start. NFC is loaded. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
We know it. Moving right along, Tennessee Titans. We know that their offseason was loaded so far. The Daboll Robert Saleh regime is now in full effect. They've really shaken up some of this roster thus far, but a great place to start would be Jeremiah Love. This is now
Yeah.
second year for Cam Ward. Uh, let's give him some help. Let's start to load this thing up. And as we know, it's not sunsetting in the AFC South. I mean, there's some powerhouse teams,
Mm.
but you're never really out of it. So what do we think about the
Yeah.
possibility of Love to the Titans?
I like Love to the Titans a lot. I think it fits a good role. I think a nice 1-2 punch with um you with what's his name, Tony Powell, would be a very good fit for them in this current situation. If you think of it, just right now, it would always be like that of DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry at the beginning of years, right? That 1-2 punch that was very dynamic for them while they were up and coming. I also think that this is a very good opportunity for them to trade down with someone. I think this team needs assets, and I think they really need wide receiver help. And I think at 4, a wide receiver really isn't in play. If you could trade down into the late, late, 10, or well, early teens, right? 10
Early
to
teens is what I
14.
was thinking too.
Exactly. A guy like Makai Lemon and Carnell Tate, if you could do that, I think would be a huge benefit for them. So something like that would be, I think, is definitely in play for them. But, I think they have flexibility here where I think Jeremiah Love is the safest bet, and from there they can see what's best available.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think he's a net positive wherever he lands with Love. Daboll, it's been a long time since he's recreated the magic he had in Buffalo. The
Mm-hmm.
Giants, it's a tough market. Tennessee's wide open. No one really has expectations for them, so he may
Yeah.
start to cook, and this would be a great place to start. I know we mentioned he's got an open floor plan with this offense. Salah's going to have that defense turn in the right direction. I think when those guys are in their capacity and they're not asked to be
Mm-hmm.
head coaches, they can kind of talk, in the locker room
Yes.
and have beers over uh, some of the struggles with being in the New York market. But Tennessee, different
Yeah.
story entirely.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, he was impressive at Notre Dame. How do you feel about Notre Dame missing the playoff last year and being on the outside looking in? Do you think that had an effect on him? Do you think it's going to juice his motor a bit, make him more
Yeah,
motivated?
for sure. Yeah, I think that definitely pissed them off. I would for me because I think they were definitely deserving of making the playoffs. And could have had maybe Mendoza doesn't win a ring if they're in. Who knows? So I really think that motivates you. I think coming from Notre Dame, which there is always this asterisk around Notre Dame. It's a top college football, but then guys come into the league and they don't pan out, or there's just always like, oh, they're an independent league. There's always some type of feeling about it. So I think just that alone gives you a little bit of a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Good stuff, man. So the Giants sitting at 5, sitting pretty. Right now they're slated, as according to Mel Kiper Jr. as of 2 days ago on the 20th. That on the 19th, that Caleb Downs, safety at Ohio State, would be
Mm-hmm.
the projected slotted pick there for the Giants, sitting at 5. The best available on ESPN.com. Currently still has Francis McGowan out of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Stud offensive tackle as slated for that position. Just a quick view for anybody who is not familiar with Francis out of Miami, because they don't not a big college football fan the way we are on the show sometimes. He was 14th out of 632 offensive tackles in the league. One of the top premier guys across college football last year. The top offensive tackle prospect. So if we're talking about just protecting,
Yeah.
protecting what's his face, Jackson Dart, and giving him the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, giving him the time, and this is really going to be Harbaugh's call. I really think it is. I think
Hmm.
if he's really fully invested in recreating himself in New York and running this offense to perfection and really bumping it up and boosting it up, I think this is a great place to start. But do you think it's really very close between Downs and McGowan?
I think if he McGowan is available, you have to get him just because of the history you've had with offensive linemen. This guy feels like a surefire bet compared to other picks. I also
Mhm.
think now getting the 10th pick from Cincinnati gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's a very good possibility that Downs drops there. Well, they're saying he's going to drop there, right? These people are
Yeah, they have him
picking,
at 10 right
saying
now.
exactly, right? So you have
Yeah.
the 10th pick. Styles could also drop there.
Yep.
A wide receiver, a top cornerback. So like all your needs are going to be there at 10 at least, you know. So I think here is like let's get something that you definitely need for the progression of your quarterback because there's not that many other offensive linemen outside of like Monroe Freeland from Georgia.
Yeah.
That yeah, at the tackle position at least that you could say, all right, he's a day one plug and
Mhm.
chug, you know?
Yeah, yeah. There's an important dynamic to not reaching that high, especially when you have a blanket at 10
Yeah.
and 5. I'm totally with you. I think that's a great point, and it's very not very offensive heavy at the top. It's very defensive heavy. I think getting a guy. I think waiting for McGowan is probably the smartest pick. I think Downs it seems to be where he should be. Again, you could make another case for Sonny Styles too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. So this much. Like their main need based on NFL, right, is wide receiver, guard, tackle, cornerback, and defensive tackle, right? So it's like if you can get the top offensive tackle and still, at the 10 be able to fill in a guard, cornerback, or wide receiver, there, which will be available, you don't have to reach for the defensive player. Because realistically, right now, you got rid of Lawrence. If you were concerned about your defense, you would never would have gotten rid of Lawrence, right? So you have some faith in them because at the end of the day, last year they didn't play terrible. It was really the offense just being absolute shit show. So,
yeah, exactly.
let's try to fix one side first and try to, and then instead of trying to holistically fix it, right? Sometimes you got to put emphasis on one side.
Yeah, all great points. And I think that's you can't build a house without any foundation. I think that's the kind of the where you need to start. Um,
Yeah.
so another team that's always had a lot of cushion, particularly in the drafts as of late, Cleveland Browns currently are sitting at 6. Now that comes with an asterisk. People at home, the boys are looking to trade up and get that
Hmm.
pick. There's a lot of flexibility to do so. I'm gonna give you the floor and kind of give your kind of table side talk about what you think the your boys should do here.
Yeah, with the Browns at 6, right? A lot of people say Dallas should trade up from, 12 to go to 6 to get that pick. I think that dies now because of the Giant pick, because of the fear of, oh, they're going to get Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs now. So I think the only chance they have is going to Tennessee at 4, and I don't think it's worth that 2 pick difference jump in assets.
Hmm.
Um, I personally think Brown should keep this pick because I think this is where you get your top wide receiver. In like a guy like Cornell Tate. You desperately need a wide receiver, for Shador or Watson to be able to function. I think that, in my opinion, would be the best option here. If not, you can, if the Giants pick a defensive player, get an offensive tackle, which you definitely need help with as well, or one of the top cornerbacks in like Mansour Deline. So I think for a team like Cleveland, they should keep that pick.
See, I'll take the contrarian position here. I think that Cleveland, kind of like the Raiders, have had historical nightmares drafting high in round one. I think they
Mm,
are bereft of talent on the offense, but as we mentioned, there's really not a lot of talent at the top in terms of receivers, and you don't really want to move down if you're sitting at 6 without just trading back. So if you're Cleveland, I
yeah,
think you make the move. You try to package a deal to let Dallas move up, and you take that back slot because realistically you could be sitting pretty for either Makai Leonard or Sadiq. And we know that Cleveland
yeah,
doesn't have problems on the defensive side of ball. They have problems with their offense, and if you're talking about an offensive lineman, since like McGowan, or if you're sitting back at Freeling, I think Freeling's still back there if you move back, if you let them slide. Um, and I
Yeah,
Yeah, so I just think I think uniquely Cleveland doesn't really need a lot here. They could trade back and they would be very comfortable doing so.
I agree. I just think the Giant trade recently with the 5 and 10 sort of just killed it a little bit, just because now it's like
Sure.
how to that buffer now it becomes a little tricky. I also say this: if Dallas is going to try to make a trade there, you have to go and try to get as much as you can with this sixth pick.
Yeah.
I call up Cleveland and I go, I want six in Miles Garrett, and I'll give you three first round picks in the second.
Oh, interesting.
I give you 12, 20 next year's first and next year's second. I get Miles Garrett in six. And with the sixth pick, I get Sunny Styles or Caleb Downs. And then
Wow.
I have Miles Garrett on a contract.
I
And then
mean,
I have the best defensive line in football in Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and Miles Garrett. And
and the
Rashawn
highest luxury
Garrett.
tag, and the highest luxury tag.
They can make it work though. Yeah, that's the bet. You know what though? That's the benefit of not signing George Pickens.
Yeah.
You get yourself an
I
end.
wouldn't I wouldn't have thrown a bag at him even for 1 year. No.
Yeah, no.
Enjoy.
Listen, the team is you only give out big contracts when your team is near a contender. When you're so bad, you can't be giving out 35 million a year when you need so much help everywhere else.
Well, that was like the Raiders. Like if they weren't sitting comfortably with all these picks and a wide open, purse, like for Kubiak, like I would make the exact same argument. It's like, why are you paying Max to just like move him for a full tank? Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of craziness could happen with pick six.
Yeah. Well, pick six, say what you will. We'll see what happens with the boys in Cleveland with projections. Um, we talked a little bit about Dallas. Let's table that for a moment. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
the commies in DC. Let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
Carnell Tate, the possibility that he may go 7 overall. Again, this
Mm-hmm.
feels like the pedigree of Ohio State outweighs the ceiling for Makai Lemon from USC. It feels like it's a better
Mm-hmm.
fit to say, oh, we're going to take the worst case scenario of an Ohio State receiver over Makai Lemon here out of
Mm-hmm.
USC.
Yeah, no, I definitely I see that. It makes sense. I like Makai Lemon a lot. I think that I like him more than Tate, I'll be honest, for his fit, being that you already have your wide receiver one in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
for this team. So I think he's a better complement, than Tate, to, what's his name, McLaurin. But
Yeah,
I also think here there's so many needs on this team where we're going to keep on going back to previous players we talked about. So like if Jeremiah Love drops, the Washington has to pick Jeremiah Love, right?
of
They
course.
they need a running back, right? If Sonny Styles drops, right, you haven't re-signed Bobby Wagner. That's a really good pick here at 7 to get a solid all-around player that you need, right? So okay, same thing with Caleb Downs. So I think like yeah, they need a defensive player for sure at this pick. With the luxury of Love falls, you get your guy in running back.
Yeah, and there's just there's so much uncertainty outside of McLaurin. Like you got Debo coming off an injury. And he's later in his career, of
Yeah,
course. Still, Noah Brown.
Ertz tore his ACL.
Right, right. And then you got a lot of unknowns with Noah Burke, Traylon Burks, Brown
Yeah,
Burks, and then Chris Moore as well. It's just I don't know. I think you do have to go receiver here. Obviously, they have multiple
yeah.
issues coming off Daniel's injury. I do believe in that coaching staff. I really love. Is Del Rio still there? Is he OC? Is
I
DC?
believe maybe it's a consultant. I gotta
Yeah,
check. I think he is though.
yeah. So I was always a huge Del Rio fan, but with Kingsbury
As was
and
I. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great fit for whatever you are cooking up there. And again, we talk about
Yeah.
keeping pace in the NFC East. I think that's a great place to start. But yeah,
No, for sure.
yeah.
I think a lot of these teams in the first 10 picks have a lot of flexibility in who they get. Unlike a lot of drafts that it's set because three of the top 10 picks are quarterbacks, where then it's almost like a very easy hierarchical pecking order and if need then after that. this draft feels very fluid where we could really see, maybe we could see 20 possible guys go within the first 10 picks almost. It feels very interchangeable this year.
Yeah. Let's pivot briefly to a team that doesn't have necessarily offensive problems that is budding in the NFC South. New Orleans Saints sitting at number 8, my lucky number. Ruben Bain Jr. is slated by Mel Kiper's draft, as the latest mock says. Defensive lineman, defensive end out of Miami. Again, this Miami defense last year was all-time great. It's the only reason they were in that championship
Mm-hmm.
game against Mendoza and Signetti and the crew. Um, I really love Ruben Bain. He pops off your screen. He's the most dynamic guy in this draft outside of kind of Arvell Reese.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a great fit. I think whatever you say about New Orleans and where they go from here, I think it has to be defensive no matter what. And I think he's the best available guy as of this moment.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Ruben Bain's an easy answer here, a solid and guaranteed guy. He's going to get you high rush rates. Fits really well. Agent Cam Jordan not signed. This is an easy plug-in pick that you're going to get success at. If they don't go that route, they've been missing Marshawn Lattimore. They could go on Mansour Delane here at cornerback and fill another role on the defense that they need. So I think they have a strong two projected picks there that they could really have that will contribute day one.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. I mean, if they wanted to move back, they could too. I mean, Mansour Lane looks like a great option if they need a corner. We know that some of those guys are getting a lot older.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really young division too. We saw that, kind of the prospects of
Mm-hmm.
Tampa losing their top of the throne. You look at where Carolina's going, where they are now. We look at Atlanta, how hot they are, and a new day with Stefanski. These are all really young rosters, so I think whatever you do, you got to have speed on the corners, and you have to have power and finesse up front too. Just a really quick, just to kind of
Yeah,
cap on,
absolutely.
just to cap on the Saints too. You know, across the board, they're not like the worst defensive team in the league. They're just kind of like mid across the board. They're right there around that 20th, 21st kind of, defensive ranking overall in some of the key indexes. I think in
Mm-hmm.
terms, sack totals, kind of they're sitting in that same kind of area. But again, pieces like Granderson and Cam Jordan, like those are old guys. And again, like
Yeah,
you need a young face to this defense moving forward.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. Um, Kansas City Chiefs sitting at number 9. As of now, Mel Kiper's got the draft of Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State. Again, these teams that kind of creep in from the Pac-12, we know they're kind of studs, but how do they play when the music hits?
Yeah.
Can they compete and play like players out of the Big Ten, SEC? I don't know. This
Mm-hmm.
feels like a bit of a reach to me, but again, Kansas City has to take a receiver after they acquired Kenneth Walker out of Seattle with that championship team. So
Mm-hmm.
moving forward, I think you could go Jordan Tyson. I would prefer you draft you know, for Kelsey's replacement with Sadiq. But again,
Agreed.
in order
I
to
think
do
it's too
so,
high for him though.
yeah, I was just gonna say I would move back if you could too as well. Again, we
Yeah.
talk about flexibility here in the top of the
Mm-hmm.
round.
Yeah. But I think they also have what the 29th pick as well. In this draft. Let me see. Yeah, they have 29, right? So I
29.
personally think they should trade back into the teens, and in there you can get your cornerback because I think whatever you're getting at 9, you could get a cornerback there. And then at 29, there are going to be wide receivers available just based on, Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper Jr., who I really think out of Indiana would be a huge, huge fit for them. I like him. I like him a lot in this team. So I think that in the later 20s, you're actually going to be able to get a receiver while getting a top cornerback. Because remember, they lost both their starting cornerbacks this offseason. So, with Mahomes already out this season for maybe, let's say, the first month and a half because of the injury, right? Does a wide receiver
Yeah,
really matter?
not necessarily.
Like if like
Yeah,
if he's gone, if you're already starting out 1-5, right? It's a lost season. So like let's call it the way it is at that point,
yeah.
and this build the room, build the defense, and then hit your offense in the draft next year.
hmm
You know,
Yeah,
it's a
Yeah, we talk about kind of the new faces and the old faces, the guys who have left the building since we last talked. Um, I I think you have to draft for who was the guy that went to the Rams, McDuffie?
Yeah, McDuffie
Yeah,
and yeah, yeah.
but that's the main blue chip piece you lost. I think you have to draft for him, whether you do it at the bottom of the round or you do it towards the number 9 spot. And
Yeah.
if you're not reaching, I would take the lane as the best
Hmm.
available corner at the position, um,
Agreed.
and that way you're not sliding too much. But then if you're not, you sit back and you take the tight end. That's just my
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It's gonna be a combo. It's gonna be a skill position, in these two picks, in DB, wide receiver, or tight end here. So that's what I see in their forecast.
Yep, definitely. Well, a tale of two options. Let's go back to the Giants here at number 10. Right now, we talked about Managoa out of Miami, but what would you feel is the best cause and effect second piece to that fifth overall pick?
Yeah, so like if you get, let's say, offensive tackle at 5, right? That's how this draft folds. At 10, let's get your Galen Downs. Let's get your,
Yep.
cornerback Gerard McCoy, Mansour Delaney. Like, let's go for that. If you get the offensive tackle and those two guys are off the table there, that's when I start looking for a wide receiver and just
Yep.
saying, okay, Neighbors is coming back off injury. We just
Hmm.
lost Wandale Robinson to the Titans. What could we do? We have Theo Johnson at tight end. We're not really sure. What could we do here to give? Right, we projected Dart. Let's give him another weapon. So like I think I rather than be offensive heavy with these
Yeah.
top 10 picks because of the fact that it's going to be so defensive where even their second round pick is going to be a high quality defensive player.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. I would go.
Because it's the fifth pick in the second round, too. It's like it's a quality pick. So it's like that will be a top corner or a top linebacker. Counted as I count the first five as a first round pick in the second round, right? So you have flexibility here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would go Tyson here, just personally. I think guys out of USC tend to pan out at the receiver position. They're kind of stud guys. Um,
Hmm.
but again, confidence with Matt Nagy in the room too as the OC. I really liked him before he took a coaching position with Chicago. He
Hmm.
was pretty good, in Kansas City. I trust that he's going to be kind of a nice, a nice counterbalance to what Harbaugh wants to do because we know that he could be offensively challenged at times and he's got bigger fish to fry running the 53-man roster. I would definitely go Tyson here without reaching. I think that's the best pick for them. But yeah, I think they need to take a receiver regardless, and
Hmm. Yeah.
especially if you're going to take a corner at 5, which I think is smart. I think that's the right thing to do. Then just follow it up.
Yeah.
Miami Dolphins number
Yeah.
sitting at 11 right now. They're slated for Delane, according to Mel Kiper Jr. I think again, this is one of those where I think you need to go best available regardless because they have so many places of need that it really doesn't matter where you start. I think you take the best available here
Hmm.
regardless.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really don't have a pick for them except best available. I completely agree with you. I like Delane here. I also think a wide receiver would be good because you have no one now.
Yeah,
A lot
literally.
of holes to fill. So I think that's really the draft is going to make the pick for them. They're not going to make the pick on their own.
Yeah. And you start looking at the board when things get thin. I mean, it just depends on the priorities. I think this is going to be with Miami. I think they're going to be very reactive to some of the picks that you
Hmm.
see out of Washington, out of New York, out of Tennessee, if
Yeah.
they're so offensive heavy, because once these guys start coming off the board, whether it's Sadiq, whether it's Lemon or Tyson or Tate, now you're getting to 13. Let's say 3 of those 4 go, then you're kind of looking at a dry spell until the bottom of the round in terms of offense. The next best available guy is Denzel Boston out of Washington, and Cooper out of
Yeah.
Indiana. Again, he was part of that mix where they had a really loaded roster.
Hmm.
So I I think if you're Miami, they're going to be very busy playing defense. No pun intended, in the draft room, kind of reacting and responding in real time. I don't.
Hmm.
I feel just so bad for Malik Willis because it's
I
like
know.
he finally got a bag. He's the team is invested in him. He's been waiting for this opportunity to start, and he goes to the worst possible effing position.
I know. And there's no one around him to help.
Yep.
So
Number 12, Cleveland is slated for Caden Proctor, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Again, they're just a rinse and repeat machine for
projecting, yeah.
offensive linemen. Yeah. So again, your floor on Bama offensive tackles is pretty easy. Is a pretty easy yes. I think Cleveland, you have to. They're notorious for being one of the best offensive lines in the league year after year. So I would actually go
Hmm.
defense here in the secondary. I would try to get a top
Okay.
elite corner. But that's just me. And we kind of talked about it. If you're going to get a stud receiver towards the top to kind of give options for Shador or Watson to throw to, in reaction to that, I think you have to go defense here at 12.
Yeah, for me, I think just because of how well the defense played last year, I would dial it back. And if the Browns do trade down to 12 to Dallas, then I think you would go an offensive tackle here or a guard, just
Sure.
because they couldn't protect anyone last year.
Yeah.
Now, if Dallas keeps the pick, I think you have to look at a guy like Jermon McCoy at Tennessee at cornerback.
Yeah.
I think that'd
Yep.
be a really good pick here. If not that, I think you have to see who's left in the Caleb Downs kind of positioning here. So I think if Dallas keeps it, it's going to be heavy defense. I think a guy like what's his name? The the safety out of Oregon, Thieneman or Thieleman, I can't pronounce his. Dylan
Yeah.
Thieneman.
Thieneman. Yeah.
I think he's a great pick there as well. So I'm seeing a secondary pick for Dallas at 12.
Yeah, 100%. I think you nailed it. I think Dallas definitely needs a corner, and Jerome McCoy is one of those like reliable SEC powerhouse corners that just hangs and bangs with the best that conference has to offer. So he's a proven guy.
Yeah.
He's gonna fit in. He'll be a stud. He was at a big school. It's a big program with the Cowboys, if you want to call it that. So I think if the personality wise, it's a good fit too.
Yeah. But you also have to take into effect the Jerry Jones factor, which is
Yeah.
if Kenyon Sadiq is at 12, is he going to just be like, oh, that's the best available guy as
Yeah.
an athlete at tight end? Am I going to draft him and have a stacked offense again?
Yep. No, I totally get it. Totally get it. Um, by way of the Atlanta trade, the at 13, the LA Rams are slated to take Makai Lemon out of USC. We talked a little bit about him earlier in a few rounds ago.
Hmm.
He's going to be a hot commodity wherever he does land. I don't see him going all the way back to 13, but I think the
Agreed.
need is acutely made aware by this draft room, and I think that outside of Puka and Devontae, you have to have some kind of option. And, there's offensive studs, all across your division. I think you really need to keep up with what the champs have to do, what San Fran's doing, and even to a
Mhm.
lesser degree what Arizona's doing. So I think an offensive piece here is the right move, regardless.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, you gotta get a wide receiver, a tight end like Sadiq here. Just we'll keep on loading it up. If your top wide receivers and tight end options are gone, look to trade down. If not, an
Yeah.
offensive tackle
Yeah.
isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, I think trading back is a fantastic idea because we talked about some of the scarcity with the receivers available. I think if you go back and you make a deal, with a team like Carolina for that second receiver or something like that, you sit back at 19, you can sleep a little better getting a guy like Denzel Boston at Washington at 23. It's less of a reach
Yeah.
to move back there. I think that's a smart move. And we know that
Hmm.
some of these, it's a weird, unique thing too, where like some of these big names at secondary smaller schools, not necessarily that Indiana and Washington are smaller, but they're not, Michigan, Ohio State. I think if they go to big cities, they tend to blend in better. They overperform, they outperform. Um,
Hmm.
and it's just a weird dynamic that I think typically does work out. It's just a recipe for success. So I think
Yeah.
this kind of falls in line with that too. Halfway through the round, we're getting up. We get up on there, and we're gonna move quick. Baltimore Ravens, Spencer Fano, offensive lineman out of Utah. I think you have to. The obvious
Yeah.
missing piece is watching Linderbaum leave the building. I think
Hmm.
they go offensive line regardless.
Yeah, you got to protect Lamar. It's the easy answer here. No other real choices at this position than once you get to this level.
Yeah, and also just letting Derrick Henry cook and making sure that he's got windows to move.
Exactly.
15, Tampa Bay. We got Kenny Sadiq, tight end at Oregon. Again, this is one of those very unique pieces. He's a guy that is highly coveted across the board. He's kind of the only tight end in this first round in terms of prospects. I saw him play in the Indiana game last year. I thought he was phenomenal. I saw him a few times as well play outside of that game too. But I just don't see Tampa taking him out of need. But if he does drop here and he's best available, I think they take him regardless. How do you feel about Tampa's roster versus just necessarily what Sadiq brings to the table?
Yeah, like for me right now, it's like they're in this weird area where it's like their offense is good enough to like get things done and really, be a top offensive team in the league. I think it comes down to health, right? So, you know, is it a bad idea to maybe try to get a wide receiver here? Because with Evans gone and Godwin is always hurt, you really
Yep.
only have what's his name? I
Hey,
forget the yeah, you have Kadon and the other wide receiver from Ohio State. I can't think of his name from last year. Um, he did very well. He almost won Rookie of the Year.
Jalen
Um,
McMillan.
no, what's his name? Tampa. Let me go back.
Not Bucky. Well, Bucky Irving they got too as a back,
Bucky.
but
Emeka
Ibuka.
Egbuka,
Yeah, I'm
right?
sorry,
So they
Ibuka.
got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
duh.
So you're relying on him. So I think here you take Akeem Mesidor out of Miami as an edge rusher that could
Okay.
provide a much needed pass rush here that you guys have been lacking. I think this is a weird pick because it's sort of like you need a need, and he's definitely can probably you probably get it at the low ends, but you're gonna have to pick him a couple picks earlier because you're really running out of edge at this spot here. So I think Akeem Mesidor would be a good pick for Tampa at this location.
Yeah, I think you go defensive front four, like you said, or you go receiver because they're very sparse with Evans walking, and then with the injury history with Godwin, you really don't know what you're
Yeah,
getting, and you can't waste these precious years you got left with Baker. You really can't. I mean,
yeah,
we take for granted
yeah.
because he's kind of been around, he's been in the eye, but if he's going to continue to have these hot starts, you got to sustain it, and there's no better way than having a reliable, stable running back with Bucky Irving, but then having guys to throw to.
No, absolutely.
Let's go back to the Jet. Yeah, yeah. Let's go back to the Jets here. We know about the Indy trade that brought this 16th pick to fruition. They're slated per Mel Kiper to take Omar Cooper, not Amari Cooper, Omar Cooper, wide receiver out of Indiana. Again, he was part of that magical run that Mendoza capped off last year. I think yeah, this is one of those 1-2 punches where you got to take one defensive guy, you got to take one offensive guy. There's plenty of areas for
Hmm.
improvement with this, so you can't really make a mistake at the receiver position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think a guy like Cooper is a great fit here. If Sadiq's around, I think it's a guaranteed pick. Even though you have Mason Taylor, two top tight ends is very good. I also think they can go crazy, and all of a sudden you see the second quarterback off the board, and you got Ty Simpson, who is like the prodigal son of Alabama royalty that came in like Willie Joe Namath. So maybe they need an Alabama quarterback. They need to run back the clock.
Well, if Barrs is sitting here at home on his fat ass thinking about a quarterback, maybe he should take Ty Simpson because y'all in a world of hurt. Let me tell you, and come at
Yeah.
me. I don't care. We got Mendoza, so. I am glad that he's sitting home on his couch though with his beautiful Catholic family because he does not want to go to Pittsburgh and me sit out there screwing my head off in the rain.
Yeah. No,
Fuck
for
that.
real.
Detroit Lions right now. Detroit, again, off a disappointing season, they need some help on the offensive line. Right now, Kuiper's got Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. I think it's a safe pick
Mhm.
if it's still
Yeah.
there. If it's still there at 17 is going to be the key issue. Again, I don't see him dropping 3 slots from best available on the board, especially with the scarcity at the offensive line. Do you think Freeling is a good fit? I think the Lions need offensive line.
Yeah, I think it's the only pick you can really do here that will actually like matter for impact immediately with this team just because of how their roster is built. If you can do that though, I think you're gonna have to go defensive tackle with a guy like Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. Or you try to trade down the pick.
Yeah, I think trading down is a fair assessment. Again, we don't really see a lot of their division drafting high in this first round. So outside of
Hmm.
Minnesota, which we'll talk about in a minute, I think you're pretty safe there to make that decision. With that being said, Minnesota is slated to take Thieneman, safety out of Oregon. Um,
Hmm.
we know that this defense has been great. It's been keeping them on the field, keeping them in games. But again, they're getting older. A lot of these key pieces are on, second, third, and fourth year of second contracts. They're very expensive. It's a very expensive defensive roster. Kyler Murray's
Hmm.
into an unknown. He's got Jefferson. He's got some really great pieces to throw to with Hawkinson as well. I just think that they do have to load up here on defense as well to keep this kind of thing on the tracks, especially in that division.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think a guy like him would be perfect. Also, the fact that Harrison Smith is no longer on the team. They
Yep.
cut him and he never re-signed. So unless they're going to bring him back in training camp, he needs starting safety. So I think it's a good pick here.
Yeah, absolutely. If you wanted to go small school, you take Warren, but I don't see the likelihood that they do that. Again, in the Downs, coming off the board very early in the draft, I think it's the second best safety situation to replace Harrison Smith's absence. So
Hmm.
Uh, sitting at 19,
Yeah,
Carolina Panthers are slated to select Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Again, I just mentioned him. I think Carolina could go multitude of ways. They just won this division by the skin of their teeth, in
yeah.
typical NFC South fashion. Uh, we know that there's some real studs on this offensive line. They have a two powerhouse back situation, 1-2 punch. And we know that Bryce is going into a year where he's got some real confidence and something to really roll with, something to prove. So, where do you think that
Hmm.
what do you think is the best pick for them here?
I mean, for Carolina, I want another wide receiver. That's just me. Or an offensive guard. I want to continue to protect him because of, his frailness, but also I need more weapons here. I think the defense is just enough that it doesn't warrant a needed pick here where I
Yep.
think you're at a position where you can get a guy like Cooper Jr. or Boston or Sadiq if they keep on dropping at this level. If not, you start looking at offensive guards, maybe like the Penn State guy,
Mhm.
Ione. I think that's not a terrible, pick at this location. I think they have some flexibility here where, they could shake it up. I think also though, if you on the defensive side of it, right, like there's McNeil Warren. I think at Toledo, great. I think Avion Terrell, cornerback, another good spot here. It's like they're progressing well. They're at like a 500 record. They really could go either side of the ball here, just based on what they see as the next stepping point of this team. Is it let's further support Bryce, or let's give him a better opposing side supporting cast, right? So it's like how do we go about this? If you're confident in Bryce Young of making the next step, maybe you don't need to force the offensive pick.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I also consider, a guy that gets lost to some of these high picks is a Concepcion out of A&M too. I thought he had a really great
Mm,
year. He's kind of projected at the top 5 of that second round, but I could see him moving up if they don't like what they see out of Boston. I think he needs a receiver. I'm kind of with you. If they choose not to go offense, that they make that a secondary option. But a lot of flexibility with Carolina and a very bright future for them. Cleveland
hmm.
sitting at 20 again, a projected third pick here in this first round. Again, they need help everywhere, but I don't think they hold on to this pick surprisingly. Um,
Hmm.
I think let's say the trade goes through with Dallas on Green Bay. I think that they move back or they package this and they try to load up somewhere else on the roster. They try to get
Okay.
a proven commodity maybe to lean on that secondary with. Have kind of a leader in the locker room because they're so young and so talented.
Mm,
But that's just my hunch on this spot here at 20.
okay. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you on that. Um, at this spot, it's more of a defensive heavy. So if
Yeah.
they decide at 12 to go offense, this is where you get that cornerback or safety. For either both the Browns or Dallas here, I think you're drafting a cornerback or a safety. Maybe Keldrick Falk at edge out of Auburn if you're Dallas. I think would be a nice pick here. But here I say, depending on if McNeil Warren is there, get him. If a guy like Avian Terrell or Feineman is there, get that. I also think if Dallas doesn't trade with the Browns here, this is a good opportunity to trade down and maybe get yourself back, a second round pick, right? So or
Yeah.
something like that, because they don't have a second round pick in this draft, so they
But they do
have
have
to,
they have
you know,
24 though. They have the 24th too.
yeah.
Yeah.
They have the 20, yeah, exactly. So actually, no, do
Yeah.
we have a second round pick this year? No, we have a third. We have the 28th pick of the third round, Dallas. So it's a long gap in talent where
Hmm.
I think, you could trade down into the early second round here and then find maybe your linebacker like Allen out of Georgia. So I think that you have, or the guy out of Texas Tech, Rodriguez. So I think you have ability
Yeah.
here to
Yeah.
get back some assets with here.
Yeah. Great kind of game theory we got here going on with that. If you're if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, where in the hell do you start with this 21st pick? I mean, dude, like we were talking about it at kind of the exit interviews with some of the playoffs with them going out against Houston. This team needs so much
Yeah,
help in so many places, and they're really covering a lot of bruises with their place in this division, where they rank in the AFC standings next year. I think I think they have to. I just my gut says they have to take a quarterback, and I thought it was going to be Ty Simpson going into the
hmm
draft, but it doesn't seem to be panning out that way. I think they're going to go with an
yeah,
offensive lineman and a guard here. I think they're going to take Oana from Penn
yeah.
State.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And if not that, they're gonna go defensive side of the ball here at like a safety or maybe an edge rusher to, supplant TJ Watt lack of production as time goes on. In my eyes, it's like the Steelers are either gonna stay where they are or trade down. They into the high twos, and then from there you could be able to get some additional defensive help here. But if you get Ty Simpson, you're basically giving up on Will Howard as well. I think that's not a fair shot because
Yeah,
he was very
yeah.
productive at Ohio State in his year. So personally, I hope they don't sign Rodgers and they start Howard and they actually tank and see what he could do.
You took the words out of my mouth. I would go full toe with Howard. I wouldn't bring another guy in to kind of like, it's like a hot chick competing with a hot chick. There's no reason to do it.
Yeah,
I would try to trade down because you need multiple picks to stay young on this roster. Like,
hmm
this is an old
yeah,
fucking roster.
yeah. And like you're re-signing guys like Cam Hayward, and it's like you didn't have to do that. You could have drafted the Ohio State defensive tackle at this pick, right? And then you wouldn't need him, right? And he's 15 years younger.
Yeah. And this team, we already know from last year, only has one way to win these games. They're going to have to win these 17, 14 games, these 17, 13 games. So why not give your offense a chance while you're already going to be tanking and, give him some protection. Give Will Howard an actual shot. See what you got.
Exactly.
Good stuff. 22 Chargers looking at Peter Woods, tackle out of Clemson. Ugh, can't even fucking speak. Sorry. Um, I I think they have to. It's one of those things because it's like my brain immediately says you have to go offensive line because my last
I agree.
burning memory was getting sacked all those times in the first round against New England on the road.
Yeah,
But stylistically and realistically, you have McDaniels now in the building. It's a new day on that offense. you can correct the health issues with your offensive line over time. But I think best on the board, best available, you have to go Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson.
Yeah, I agree. Either him or maybe like another edge guy because Max getting old, like Falk. But
Hulk, yeah,
I think you're looking at either the Penn State guard here if he doesn't go to Seattle, the Pittsburgh, or a
yeah.
defensive player.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a surefire hit if you go either offensive line here to protect Herbert, or you go defensive here. I would also shout out to Caden McDonald too, off Ohio State. He's a
Yeah.
big boy. He could easily move up here just because of necessity and need with the Chargers as well. Um, with that being said, Philadelphia has a similar problem, but with age, similar to the Steelers, they're in-state rivals. Right now, it's looking as Blake Miller, offensive tackle out of Clemson, would be the fit, but there's a lot of options here at the top of the second round to fill that void as well. How do you feel about that prospect right there with Philadelphia?
Yeah, yeah, I think O-line's a safe bet here. I also think possibly a linebacker, like a guy like Anthony Hill, just because you lost N'Kobe Dean, is not a bad
Yeah,
idea here. Yeah, also you lost Blankenship, so like safeties are in play. So I think there's a lot of room here for a pick. This is a need pick more for me, a Philadelphia than the actual best available. So I think, offensive line or like a linebacker here makes sense to me.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I think, yeah, reacting to that with, Cleveland via the Jacksonville trade. Again, you could go multiple of ways, but we won't rehash it because Cleveland we've already talked to at nauseum. Let's go to Chicago at 25. Zion Young, defensive end out of Missouri, looks like the best possible available spot for Chicago. Some of the projections have him at the top of that second round, but with Chicago in their need,
Hmm.
I think it makes the most sense because of the success they've had on the offensive side of the ball. Now, you did lose DJ Moore to Buffalo. That is a very real thing, but it doesn't seem like the offensive problems are there in the building
Hmm.
with the arrival of Ben
No.
Johnson. I think you're looking at all defense here.
You go with a guy like Caleb Lamo, out of Utah at OT at offensive tackle just to really bolster the offensive line. So I think the defense will be the pick here, but they do have a nice backup in an offensive tackle that's quality, day one starter. While you're waiting for your current offensive tackle who suffered an injury last year towards the end. So
Yeah, and just at a glance, going back to what Zion Young did at Missouri in such a short time, he had 6.5 sacks. There, 46 pressures and 18 tackles, which is absolutely prolific for a 13 game schedule. And that's a that's a
yeah.
tough school to play at just because of the expectations, keeping up competing in the SEC. I think that's a
No,
great,
absolutely.
yeah.
I also like his
Yeah.
intangibles, 6'6", 260. Quality edge rusher right there.
Probably negative body fat, unlike me.
Yeah.
He could take my bitch tits all day long. 26 Buffalo. Again, a guy that we've called a lot tonight, Kedrick Falk, here at the bottom of the
Hmm.
first round. I think, again, with Chicago and, with the Chargers, I think you have to go defense. You have to
Yeah.
have defense, Buffalo. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Hmm.
Defensive end, Kedrick Falk would be a perfect start.
Yeah, absolutely. And if not that, like a guy like out of Georgia, CJ Allen, that linebacker, because you lost like some guys there, like AJ Epinesa left. Like I think that's a solid pick as well.
Yeah, that's an important point with Ebenezer as well. And again, outside of Bosa, it's an old defense.
Yeah,
It's no other way to slice it.
a DB here wouldn't be terrible. There's a lot of room here for them.
Yep. Now, San Francisco is an interesting situation, and they're sitting at 27. Again, all this is all contingent upon the Trent Williams contract. It's been looming. There's still
Oh, he
no.
signed. He signed. It's a two-year extension.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that
All
fixes it for now. It fixes it.
right. When did it get announced?
I think yesterday.
Was it yesterday? Okay, so it must have
Yeah.
got buried in my feed because, I mean, that's clearly
It was
huge.
a low key. It really wasn't anywhere. It was only a few. Adam Schefter posted and ESPN
Yeah.
like once.
Yeah, because that was on my radar for a while, and it's obviously a huge domino to drop with this division
Mhm,
and the league wide. I still think, with that being said, again, his age and his history, I think you still have to take the answer here out of Arizona State. Um,
mhm,
there's not too many guys, at the bottom of the first, top of the second that really fit what they need. And I think it has to
mhm.
be an offensive line piece because of their injury history across the board.
Yeah, I like that pick for sure. I also think though that like it's offensive line heavy this year where you could get a pick in the second round where I think the more glaring spot is wide receiver because outside of Kendrick Bourne and Mike Evans, you don't have a wide receiver right now because you haven't signed back Jennings. Um, Kittle's off injury and
Yep.
Ayuk you're shipping away. So who really is left in that room?
Yeah, I would try to
So
take Stowers out of Vanderbilt if you can.
yeah, like for me, I think
Second
that
best tight end.
Boston. Yeah, I think yeah, like that. But I think a guy like Concepcion or Boston or Cooper could be around late, just on how the draft goes, where you might be forced to have to make a pick like that, or you trade up. They're definitely a trade up candidate in my eyes, for a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Um,
Because you gave the bag to Mike Evans off injury at this age. I think that was more of a stretch out of necessity. Like you have to hope he's healthy.
yeah, yeah, you really do have to help help me healthy. And I think I my gut tells me, it's an offensive tackle or it's a tight end because I think with Purdy and what they want to do, I still think like they still have Jawan Jennings, don't they?
Free agent hasn't signed with anyone yet, and they don't want to pay him.
Yeah. So that's another domino drop too because I think he's a very underrated piece of that offense, and I don't
Same.
think I don't think he's necessarily going to command what he may be looking for on the open
Yeah,
market. I think he's most valuable to the guys in that locker room.
he's like a lot. He's like Seattle's Lockett back in the day, right? Wouldn't
Yes.
break the bank, but he's a glue guy.
Yeah. So Juwan Jennings would be a huge deciding factor here, but I would still take a tight end honestly to
Yeah,
replace Kittle eventually with the injury too.
yeah,
Um,
no, good point.
28 at Houston, Christian Miller, defensive tackle out of Georgia. This is already a defense that's loaded. They had some key pieces re-signed on short-term deals for 1 and 2 year. We know that D'Amico Ryan's to a degree is on the hot seat just for kind of his flame out in the playoffs. They really
Hmm.
couldn't, but they couldn't move things on the offensive side of the ball because of the pressure that New England was applying in that playoff game. I would try to go offense here to help out both the run game that they're trying to produce now and to help out CJ Stroud. But I want to hear your thoughts about maybe going the other way on the other side of the ball.
Chase Bisonsis out of Texas A&M
Hmm.
guard is makes a really good pick here. I think you have to go offense, in my opinion.
I do too.
Defensively, you're sort of stacked, but you don't really need anything. A D tackle, yeah, a D tackle would be the way to go, or maybe a cornerback just to keep at a slot. But like, I think offensive guard is the right pick here. The real question is, with a team that doesn't need that much, right? You could trade down, get some more picks in the second round. I trade down here and if
Yeah,
I'm
I
able
would.
to get a second, a first, and maybe a first and like a third and stuff like that, just to get some just extra assets for help here, because offensive line is very hard to hit on these days. You maybe in the third round take a quarterback just to spice things up with the way Stroud's playing or something like that, or if Ty Simpson keeps on falling, is he a second round pick possibly? Just to put the pressure. Like this team's pretty stacked right now, where it doesn't really need anything. It just needs the quarterback to play well.
Yeah. For me, this screams Basantis out of A&M, offensive guard at 33. Because you keep a guy in state, he knows that area, he knows the market. I think
Yeah,
it's a good reliable fit for what they need. They really don't need a lot. And if you're not taking offensive guard, I would definitely trade back for sure.
yeah.
29 is unique. Again, we got Cardinals and Miami kind of sitting there with the trade deal pending. Again, we'll have an update on that. But in the meantime, we'll talk about Kansas City and where they currently hold Colton Hood for quarterback out of Tennessee as the possible prospect. I think you do have to take a corner here if you don't take your replacement for McDuffie earlier in the round. If not, again, we talked about it. Take a tight end, take a receiver, something that you could work with.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the
Yeah,
pop,
no, I agree with you. Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. Yeah, I think Holden Hood's the obvious pick here. I don't really think there's anything much else to really get here. Maybe Stowers at tight end at a Vandy. Just as the heir apparent if you can't get Sadiq. But yeah.
What about the prospect of Ty Simpson going to the Cardinals here at the 29th, pending that the trade goes through and advances?
I like that pick. I really think they should run it a year with Brissett and then try to get the Oregon quarterback next year. Um, you
Okay.
know, I don't think there's enough on this team right now to support a winning culture. So I think going on the quarterback stretch right now when you have the bridge in place,
Hmm.
um, seems a little too early. I think we
Hmm.
need to bolster this team, get the team to around 350, 400, right? In record, not
Yeah.
200. And then from there and then from there we could start making our progress.
Yeah. Good point. Good stuff. Again, with Arizona pending, that's kind of the reason why I wanted to talk about Ty Simpson. Again, this is not a quarterback heavy draft. It's really just kind of Mendoza and that's it. Um,
Hmm.
Drew Allard is another game, another guy who may, raise some eyebrows as a potential guy. But again, this is all really competing for second jobs anywhere you go in
Hmm.
terms of the quarterbacks in the league. So with that being said, we'll table the 30th pick. We'll go to New England. If you're New England, I think you need an edge rusher. You need a defensive end. I think going with Mesidor out of Miami would be a great start, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of options for them as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like TJ Parker out of Clemson here. I think it's a solid edge piece that you could work on. So I think it has to be a defensive pick here.
Yeah, I think you could go Zion Young out of Missouri. You could go Howell out of A&M. There's a lot of
Hmm.
options here at the top of the second round. Um, I mean, you could even go Caleb Banks out of Florida too. You could go inside here.
Yeah,
Yep, pushing the pile. We'll end with a banger. We'll go to the reigning Super Bowl champions, Seattle Seahawks. Right now, it seems that Jadarian Price would be the second running back off the board out of Notre Dame, which is ironic
hmm
because Jeremiah Love would be going four as we speak, according to Mel Kiper Jr. I think it's so obvious because Walker left the building.
absolutely.
But again, we don't know what we're going to get out of Charbonneau. Again,
Oh, I don't
we
want to
were
hear it.
I know. We were talking, sharing touches and all this bullshit, but they really, again, it's icing on the cake to have another young back. I think you should have a dual threat back, someone to throw
Hmm.
to as well, just to kind of mix it up and keep guys on their heels. But I think that would be the only place to kind of go here.
Yeah, I think Price is that dual threat back, which Walker once Charbonnet got hurt thrived in that role in this offense, right? So if you're able to keep a Kubiak style offense with Darnold and his ability to dump off the ball, I think a pass catching dual threat back like Price fits perfectly here. If you
Hmm.
don't go there, I think you got to go to cornerback to supplant Tariq Woolen, who left in free agency.
Yep. Good stuff, man. Thank you for your time tonight. Everybody at home, keep an eye out for our social media. We're going to have some live reactions on our Instagram. We'll have a new reel posted for all the guys here on the show, on the pod, and their teams and where they're drafting here after this first round on Thursday going into Friday morning. So keep an eye out on our socials for Friday morning. Enjoy the draft. Obviously, it's going to be a busy weekend. We will convene in a few weeks to talk about the subsequent rounds and see who really won out in terms of the entire draft. But we appreciate you all checking in and enjoy the draft. Brian, thanks a lot, man.
Anytime, happy hunting, enjoy.
Happy hunting. Let's go. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Peace.